Hey guys, what's up and welcome to my first YouTube video. In this video we're going to be going over Tesla's basically delivery numbers from 2017 until 2023. So of course predicting the next 3 years basically. Just before we start into this, I want to mention a few things. So firstly, I'm not affiliated with Tesla in any kind of way. I am just a retail shareholder and I'm very passionate about the company. Secondly, as with all YouTube videos, that the way it should be, this is not direct financial advice in any way. This is just simply showcasing my opinion of a base case scenario. So again, not a bull case, not a bear case, just in the middle of the line where I see this as a conservative and safe kind of estimate, not too low, not too high. So you make sure that you research all your numbers yourself. Make sure that you check the numbers and make sure that you do your own investment based on your own opinion and research and not based on this video. But as with myself, I'm sure you will enjoy this video to basically stabilize your position on Tesla and get a better overview of what actually these numbers we should expect from it. So let's start. In this video we're going to be going over a few things: the car deliveries, the gigawatt usage, the battery production ramp and what cars they'll be used for, as well as just generally going over the market position of Tesla in the now and comparing to 2023. So let's get started. Firstly, these are the assumptions for this base case. The demand is not an issue whatsoever, so we assume they will pretty much be able to sell close to what they can produce. The core products will have smooth ramps, so that's the existing products, and we'll get into that a bit later. And then we're assuming that the new products will have a slow ramp, or at least a slower ramp than what bulls would expect, and we'll see how that affects the general thesis as well. So firstly, we're going to start with the quarterly production and the quarter-over-quarter growth. So the first columns you can see are basically the production numbers until now and then my estimates. And then on the right you have the quarter-over-quarter growth or decline based on what quarter it is. So starting with the Model S and X, in this thesis we're assuming that the Model S and X will remain very stable, if not slightly decrease. We're assuming these are still quite premium cars. We're assuming the price will remain quite high, and we're assuming that they're not going to have a big impact. And then we're assuming that the Model 3 and Y, these are basically the core products that I see for the next 3 years, and we're assuming these are going to ramp up quite smoothly, and that the Model Y will reach the same production rate as the Model 3 by end of 2023. In reality, this will probably be a lot faster, as Model Y will be produced out of a lot more places, but just for this thesis we're kind of assuming a balance between these, and these will lead to the final numbers. Then getting onto the cars that are not released yet, the Plaid, the Cybertruck, the Semi, and the Roadster. As I said, these will have a slower ramp and they won't really affect the revenue or the delivery numbers that much, looking at it overall. So the Plaid and the Roadster will have no impact whatsoever regardless of the ramp really. They're just niche products with low volume and high margins. So while they might affect the bottom line, the profits, they will not affect the overall revenue and delivery numbers. What will affect the delivery numbers a bit, just slightly by 2023 in this thesis, is the Cybertruck and the Semi, but these will more affect the gigawatt usage, so the battery need, than they will affect the actual raw numbers. And that's of course because they use more batteries for one car. So we'll get into that a bit later. And just to summarize, one thing that I know some people will have a problem with is that I only predict 774,000 cars delivered next year. A lot of people argue that Tesla's production rate at the end of this year is already 840 to 1 million. Elon Musk also slightly alluded to that on a phone call when answering to an analyst, that we should expect between 840 and 1 million. But that's the production rate. I'm going to assume like 900,000 average. And I'm also going to put a 10% downtime on that, which we'll get a bit later into. So what does this mean basically? So I'm assuming, as you can see, by 2023 to have a 2.284 million cars delivered in 2023. We're starting to ramp up this S-curve, which is very important. So we're really starting to accelerate the delivery rate. And going back to the previous note, you can see that for this year, I'm assuming a 36% year-over-year delivery increase. But then for 2021, 2, and 3, it's going to be 55%, 77%, and 67%. So that ramp up, as I said, going smoother and increasing as well. So these are the numbers once again. So while this is not the point of the video, I do want to iterate that looking at this base case, they should be able to reach close to 5 million cars delivered by end of 2025, plus minus 1 year, depending on the ramp, of course. So when we break this down into quarter by quarter, we can see that in the beginning we had a little bit of bumps. That's mainly due to the Model 3 production ramp as well as seasonality. So basically, I'm assuming that while the 3 factories ramp up, that we will not have this issue. I'm assuming it'll be a smooth ramp, at least with the Model Y and the Model 3. And these will, as you'll see later, constitute the majority of the numbers when it comes to deliveries and revenue. So one important thing, I guess, to note is that the Model Y from Berlin will be the first car pretty much using the 4680s. That's very important, and we'll get into that just in a bit. Why this is important is because the Model Y is the big portion of these deliveries, and the new 4680 cells will affect this ramp. Not as much as you would think, though, so that's one interesting note. Stay tuned for it. You'll see just in a bit when we analyze the 4680 production rate. Let's continue. So here we have the quarterly deliveries by car broken down. You can see currently it's the Model 3, that's the biggest player basically, but by the end of 2023, the Model Y will be the best-selling car for Tesla and will pretty much be on par with the Model 3. In my opinion, probably outsell it by quite a lot. Again, you can see the other new products. The only basically notable delivery amount will be the Cybertruck, but you can see it'll still be ramping up, and in my opinion, it won't have a huge impact until 2025. Again, Model S and X will just continue being relatively small portions and will just be aiding the bottom line but nothing else. Same with the Plaid and probably the Semi as well. So going into the actual battery needs for each car, we can see that right now it's pretty much the Model 3 eating up most of the batteries. But towards the end of 2023, it will be the Model Y as well, with the Cybertruck and the Semi also adding up to quite a large amount, even though the delivery numbers will be small, and that's because they use a large amount of batteries, or at least of kilowatts basically, because they're heavy-duty cars. So that's going to be interesting to see, especially as I said with the Model Y, because the Model Y will be using the 4680s, at least in Berlin. So let's look at this automotive breakdown. Basically, where do the batteries go? Right now, you can see over half the batteries are going into the Model 3, with a quarter going into the Model Y, and then 15% for the S and X. So by 2023, you can see that pretty much the Model 3 and Y will each take 1/3, and then the other products will take the remaining third. An interesting thing to note, of course, is that the Semi and Cybertruck will need the 4680s, and then some percentage of that Model Y will also need the 4680s because that's going to be the ramp-up of the Berlin factory. How much of it, it's hard to tell, but basically for the next slide you'll see, I'm going to assume around a 1/3 4680 usage by 2023. So Tesla becoming their own suppliers and a huge supplier for themselves, actually. So the question really is, will this 4680 ramp, slow down their deliveries or whatever their car rates? And this thesis, the answer is actually no. So if we look at it basically, by the end of 2022, which is very important because that's when Tesla wants to reach 100 gigawatts of production rate from their battery plants, they will only need actually 40 gigawatts almost. Based on these numbers, and that is including the Model Y. In the graph itself, the Model Y is not included because, as I said, the numbers vary, so I only included the new vehicles that we know 100% will require these. But again, at these numbers at the bottom, the Model Y is included, so 38 gigawatts including Model Y for end of 2022, that's the production rate, and then 90 gigawatts for 2023. What's important to note is that assuming they reach that 100 gigawatt battery production, they're going to in 2022. They're going to be 1 year ahead of the curve that they need for ramping up the 4680 into cars. Of course, this is assuming that the new cars won't need as many 4680s. If they will, so they'll probably be in the bull case, which we'll make a video on at a later point, then it is important that they reach that 100 gigawatt production rate. But for now, it's not as important. They can reach 50 gigawatt hours and still be good for 2022. So continuing, now going into car revenue plus market cap. So a few things to note here. The share price that I assumed is very linear. It's a base case. I'm assuming the share price kind of stabilized and we'll just have a linear growth. We all know it's not going to happen. It's Tesla, but you know, one can assume. So firstly, what's very important and why I color gradient coded these is basically the Model 3 and the Model Y will be the largest, the largest revenue segments for Tesla. So basically, those are going to be making up the majority of the revenue, while the S and X do pretty much nothing, except bottom line. And then the Cybertruck and Semi, they will start playing, becoming a big part of this, but not in 2023, based on this thesis, probably later towards 2025. In terms of revenue, as you can see for Q4 of 2023, I predict around 36 million of automotive revenue. So this is the one thing to note is that the price per car is a bit high, higher than they actually are now. But that's because I'm assuming the software revenue as well. I'm just putting them all in the car price. So that's why these numbers might be a bit higher than what you'd expect based on the sales price of the car. And then for 2023, I predict a revenue of 112 million for the just the automotive. So important to note, this is all just for automotive. So probably the total revenue way up in the 100 millions, which, realistically, if you look by current market cap ratios and stuff, the price should be, closer to maybe 1 trillion market cap. But again, I'm just going to assume a linear growth. What's important to note is the Roadster will not have any sort of impact basically on the on the general production rate, and the Plaid won't either, so that's not even really included because it's not that important basically. It's very low volume and not so high revenue. So breaking that down a bit more visually, you can see that in 2018 and 19, basically that's when the Model 3 started becoming a big part of Tesla. And from 2020 onwards, it's going to be the Model Y that's going to become that big part. And then from 2022, 2023, the Cybertruck and the Semi will start ramping up as well and having an impact on revenue. So this is assuming a linear stock growth basically from where we are right now. And one important thing to note is that you can see that because they had this year below 50% growth, that's why it seems that the stock price is maybe overvalued by quite a lot. And that's because of that. If they would have had a higher growth rate, then we pretty much would have followed the stock price. An important thing to note, this is the growth rate of the stock and the deliveries based compared to the 2016 values. So just so you understand what this is referencing, regardless of this base cases or general opinion, I think it's always a good buy. If you can see in the base case that that S-curve starting in deliveries. So unless the stock price keeps going exponential, Tesla's a good buy, and I'm gonna keep buying. So, one of the last things, we're getting close to the end of the video, so we're just going to do a quick overview of the Tesla fleet and the global BEV market. Again, these are the numbers I got from different sources online, and I tried to verify. Do your own research to get, to make sure you're investing the way you want to. So, what I'm seeing so far is that the global BEV was very slow. There is no competition to speak of, basically. I believe the only big competition will be coming out of China from XPeng, from NIO, Lucid Motors probably later in 2025-26, but outside probably Volkswagen, I don't see any basically legacy automaker ramping up in the same rate that Tesla can. So I'm actually assuming that their BEV share will keep growing. I think it will get to around 30% by 2023, and then it might fall after that once people have caught up. But that won't really matter for Tesla. I don't think Tesla will, have delivery issues or whatever, customer, market issues. Because of it, I just think the total market will get bigger. Tesla will still sell how many they can because they will be the best on the market. So that's kind of an important thing to note. I assume there will be around 5.6 million Teslas on the road by 2023, which of course, if you assume, autopilot revenue and stuff, full self-driving, that's a whole different world. So you can imagine how the financials look then. So in conclusion, what do we get from this? So the Model 3 and Y are basically the key products. They're the ones that we need the ramp to go smoother, and they're the ones that are going to deliver the good, nice revenue, basically, and nice volume. The Model Y ramp is dependent on the 4680 cells because one of the factories, the one in Berlin, will only be using 4680s for the Model Y as far as we know. So that can affect the delivery rates of these cars. As we saw by the graph on the batteries, unless they really mess up the production rate on those batteries, the battery should not be the issue. So while the Model Y is dependent on this ramp, I do not believe that this ramp will affect their deliveries. Then the Cybertruck, Roadster, and Semi will not have a huge impact yet. That's very important. As I said, all these new products will have a slow production rate in the beginning, so until 2025-26, they will not have any huge impact on any of the financials outside, being the first to market as a general thing. But for the financials, they won't have much. Then Tesla BEV share will keep rising. So generally speaking, as I said, outside there's some competition from China, and I'll definitely do a video on who I believe will, be able to keep up with the king, in this case Tesla. I'll definitely do a video on that, so keep tuned for that if you're interested in doing some, NIO, XPeng, Tesla comparisons. But regardless, I think that the legacy automakers stand no chance, and they will lose BEV share, while Tesla will just eat it all up. So again, reiterating, no serious competition outside China. I've seen a lot of videos on NIO and XPeng, and while I don't think they're par with Tesla's brand name or recognition, their aggressive marketing is really working for them. And because Tesla's not marketing at all, this is one of the few cases where I think they're actually negatively impacted in a market like China. And then reiterating what I said earlier with the Model Y, the 4680 ramp, assuming they can reach that 100 gigabyte run rate by 2022, which is what they want, it will not affect the overall growth of the company until 2023, and probably for at least 1 or 2 years after that, they should still be safe. Once the Model 2 will kick in, which of course you saw here, it's not included, that's when I think the 4680s will really start constraining them, because they'll probably have large volumes of Cybertrucks, large volumes of semis, and they're going to need at least 2-3 battery factories for these, at least. So that's going to wrap it up, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want more videos, as this is my first YouTube video, leave a like and a comment. It's important for me to know what you thought, any feedback. I could get a better microphone if you guys are interested. So we're basically gonna be continuing with this next time. Next video might be the bull or the base case, or the bear case, or it might be the overview of the competitors. But please, if you want to see anything, if you want to see more things regarding these numbers, if you want to see any changes, if you're excited to see the bear thesis or the bull thesis, leave a comment. Tell me what you thought, and I'll keep making videos like these if you guys enjoy them. So thanks very much for watching, and have a nice day.